My name is Dick Odom, and I represent the fellows of the Skillet and Glass, and this is one of many productions that we'll be having over the coming months. We are a creative organization of professional chefs and amateur cooks. I'd like to introduce our producer and videographer, Rob Barnes. We're already running, and this is Rob Barnes of One Stop Productions. So today we're here with one of our stars, one of our great players, if you will. His name is Billy Odom. You might notice he's got the same last name as I do, and that's because his daddy and my daddy are brothers. He's very, very precise in what he does, and he knows his Himalayan salt blocks, and I'm going to leave it all to him.
Okay, we're here to have some fun today. I am going to demonstrate for you and tell you a little bit about cooking, grilling, serving with Himalayan salt blocks. And what I've assembled here are some essentials that you'll need besides a Himalayan salt block to actually enjoy this entertaining cooking method and serving method. The most interesting fact I think I found recently about Himalayan salt blocks are that one of them is that Himalayan salt blocks don't actually come from Himalaya. They come from Pakistan. Himalayan salt is mined from mines in Pakistan, which is about 200 miles from the Himalayan mountains. And when they got into the commercial opportunities for these salt blocks, they decided that Himalayan would be more commercially attractive than a Pakistani salt block. This is a standard size block, 8 inches by 12 inches. I like them about 1.5 inches to 2 inches thick. You can get them in all different shapes and sizes. This happens to be one that I bought, and it'll tell you the nice aspects of a Himalayan salt block. It contains a number of minerals, including calcium, potassium, all that gets imparted into the food when you cook it. It has a natural flavor seasoning that you'll see in some of our demonstrations. And I would recommend that when you buy a Himalayan salt block, that you keep the box. So after you use it, after you clean it, you can store it in this box, and it'll keep it protected, and a nice way to store it. There's a lot of Himalayan salt block information out on the internet. YouTube has a number of videos. I recently picked up this salt block cooking book. Great, a lot of good recipes, a lot of good hints, a lot of good things to consider when utilizing Himalayan salt blocks. Some other things that I found that you'll absolutely have to need, in my opinion, are some oven-proof mitts. These mitts happen to be good to up to 900 degrees, and these salt blocks, when you cook with them, you can take them up to 500-600 degrees, as you'll see, on the gas tops or on the grill, however you choose to heat them up in the oven. And they'll also be good down to 0 degrees or below in the freezer. So a lot of opportunities for when you transport these during your usage of them to have a good set of mitts. You also need a rack, if it doesn't come with a rack, to keep it off some of the surfaces when you go to serve it. To check the temperature of a block, a couple of different ways. I use an infrared thermometer, you'll see later, to check the temperature. As we'll also go over, you have to heat these up very slowly. Another thing I do when I do check the meat as they're cooking on the salt block is a good digital meat thermometer. This is just some cleaning utensils. I'll talk about cleaning later. Some items that I use: never in the dishwasher, rinse them in water, scrape them, and let them air dry. All right, for a little bit more fun, we're going to take a Himalayan salt block that's been in the refrigerator now for several hours. Actually, this one's been in it overnight, so it's nice and cold. We're going to use it as an appetizer serving opportunity, and today we're going to do it using some sashimi as a presentation feature. So I'm going to attempt to first off start off with a clean cutting board. I'm going to take a wet paper towel. I'm going to put that onto my cutting board to keep it from slipping. It's nice and stable. I've got 3 kinds of fish. I have butterfish, I have some Ono Wahoo, and this, by the way, in Japanese restaurants, the butterfish is also called white tuna, and this is big eye tuna. So we're going to slice those, serve them sashimi style. We've got some steamed edamame here as an accompaniment. We're going to salt that up here in a few minutes, and we're going to decorate it real pretty. And so let's give it a go. Let's start with the butterfish. We've got a wet rag here that we're going to use to help keep our knife moist. And I think with this particular piece of fish, it's a little bit too big for sashimi serving as is. So I think I'm going to try to cut it in half, and boy, it really pays to have a nice sharp knife. Now, I'm by no means a sushi chef, but let's see what we can do here to get a nice diagonal thin cut in one swoop. And I might as well just go ahead and transfer this to our serving Himalayan salt block to keep it nice and cold while we prepare it. These are nice size, perfect size for sashimi. I'm gonna get it nice and pretty. Let's try a few more of these. It really pays to have a nice sharp knife and clean. And when it starts to stick a little bit, we just wet that knife like that. And let's do a few more. That's about enough of that because I think we have plenty. That is beautiful, beautiful. All right, now for the wahoo, we're gonna do the same. Not sure I need a diagonal on that. I'm just gonna go right here on this end piece because this is a beautiful piece of fish all ready for me. Look at that. One nice slice. Let's wet it up a little bit. And we hold the knife like this is actually better. Get a little steady. Oh, that's pretty. All right. And in no particular rhyme or reason, we'll set that on that cold block. And let's go off to our big eye tuna. And again, I think we'll try it this direction. That's looking pretty good, but I'm going to save that. It might not be as pretty as what I want. Need to wet my knife. You get the idea. You can choose a fish of your choice. These are all suggestions, but we have some beautiful fish here. And I think this may be close to what we need. I love the size of the portions here. And I think that's enough for what we need to do. Let's start doing some decorations. So I'm going to cut a spring onion or scallion here for decoration. Look at that knife. And again, I'm not a knife professional either, so I'm sure people will say, Bill, you need to curl your fingers up so you don't cut them off. We'll do a little bit of this around for decoration. And then we have some soy sauce. We have the fish actually came from Saltwater Market in Clover, South Carolina. Wanted to give them a nice plug because they provided us with some very nice fish here. We're going to do some pickled ginger, part of the presentation. I've done some wasabi here on the side, keeps it nice and cold. This salt block is great, keeping everything fresh, cold. Get that ginger a little better. So we've done that. Let's take a microplane and give it a little color here. Let's see how this works. Oh yeah. And we have some of that. Then we'll take some black sesame seeds. Look, ooh, it's coming together. I see it. White sesame seeds. Awesome. Woohoo! All right, I think we're getting really close. If you wanted to, put a little thin slice of lime. We'll twist that up. Put that in the center. We'll do a little salt on that steamed edamame. Great. And I believe that's great. That block is cold, and I think it came out great. So to wrap this up, to show you that I'm going to partake of something I created here, I'm going to show you and enjoy some of this lovely sashimi. So I'm going to pick this wahoo as it is here. First off, I'm going to put some wasabi on it. Some people mix their wasabi up in the soy sauce. You can do some of that too. And then some of us also put some right on the fish. Oh yeah, stay there. Stay there. And a piece of ginger. And then we're going to go, hopefully we're going to go into the soy sauce and into the mouth. Wow. I'm going to have some more of this, but I wanted to show you how you can take this, and as you prepare it, this is how you'd serve it. Right to your guests. Enjoy. Doesn't get any fresher. So this session is utilizing Himalayan salt blocks to cook and serve an entree portion of a meal or a presentation. What we started with were 2 Himalayan salt blocks. Both we preheated in the oven to 200 degrees because you want to heat these blocks up very slowly. I'm going to use 1 block here today to actually cook on, and then I'm going to remove the food and put it on a warm block to serve. So we've heated that up, both of them to 200. We don't have a burner under this one. We've got a burner on this one for about an hour, because the general rule is you want to heat the salt blocks up about 10 degrees every 10 minutes, very slowly. They are very heavy, they're very dense, they maintain heat, it's a consistent heat, and the salt imparts a bit of flavor and nutrients into the items that you cook on the salt block. So we have gradually heated this block up to, and this is one of the tools that I use, is an infrared thermometer. It's currently reading 508 degrees, and I'll see if Rob can pick that up. Shows you how hot it is. If you don't happen to have an infrared thermometer, a good gauge is you can sprinkle a little water, and as soon as it hits that block, it's going to splatter and dance all over the block. That's a pretty good indication it's ready. So for today's meal, we're going to do 3 things on the hot block. We're going to do a Wagyu steak that's been sitting out for a while. It got into room temperature. The only seasoning we're going to use on that steak is some ground pepper. It'll impart some of the salt from the block. So no salt necessary, no other seasonings necessary. We're going to do demonstrate some vegetables, so we'll put some asparagus on one side, and just to show you some versatility in putting a cooked meal together, we're actually going to cook a couple of kebabs of shrimp. So I think I'm going to put the asparagus on first, and we'll just put a few of these aside very carefully. Get them started. You can hear them sizzling. And perhaps this would help get them a little organized and keep them on the block. They're starting to turn a little warm. I think next we'll put the Wagyu steak on, and we'll just sprinkle a little pepper. This is beautiful. We happen to get this steak from Wegmans, not that it's a paid political announcement, but any place that you can get a good quality meat. And I chose about 1.5 inches thick for this. You can hear it sizzling. No oil is necessary. The blocks that I've found that I've used for this purpose, the food doesn't stick, so it's no oil there. And then we'll do our shrimp to the side, and I have some seasonings that we'll sprinkle on these. And again, I'm not going to put any oil or anything, and we're going to let's do them this way. And I know we had a little Old Bay, so we'll sprinkle a little bit of Old Bay on the shrimp. You can hear a nice sizzle, so we're doing really good here temperature-wise. If you could have smell-o-vision right now, you'd be smelling that great aroma. And look at that. The asparagus is starting to turn bright green. Starting to show that grill. Now I'm going to put them over here in a little bit of the steak juice. And we're good here. And I would say, if you're shooting for a medium rare steak this thick, 4 to 5 minutes on the side. We'll see. And I'm not sure that we need much of anything on the asparagus. It's going to be picking up that salt from the block. And the thing I like about cooking on a salt block is the salt that's imparted in the food is not too potent. It's a very subtle way of introducing salt and flavor into the food. And then I'm gonna, and as you see, we didn't put any oil on that. Look at the juices coming from that steak. Look at that sear. Smell that. And that is not going to take long on the next side. That is not going to take long. The shrimp are just about done. I may put a little butter, won't hurt. Put a little butter on the steak and let that just soak in there a little bit, and a little bit on the asparagus here. No other seasoning unless you wanted to maybe put some fresh ground pepper on that. Look at that sizzle. I think at this point I'm actually going to turn the heat off because it's going to retain that heat, and everything is coming together. Look at that. See that? Woohoo! That's awesome. And these babies are done. So we're going to transfer those over to the presentation block. And then we're going to put a little bit of our lemon decoration over here. Maybe we'll do the same thing with the limes. That. And I think the asparagus are still perfect. I think, look at that. Tender, juicy, beautiful. And let's see, let's do a digital check here on the steak. I can tell you right now, I could eat that. It says 112. So let's give it a few more minutes. We can spin it around. See how easy it comes off of that block? But we're getting pretty close. Yep, I think we're good. Good piece of meat like this. So what we've done now is we plated the items that we cooked on the warm salt block, and we've checked the internal temperature of our steak, and as I just checked it, as it's rested for about 5 minutes, it's at 133. So that should be medium rare, maybe a little on the rarer side. But let's slice into it now. Let's see what we have. And this should be just absolutely beautiful. Oh yeah, that's a little on the rare side. Again, if you wanted to, oh, beautiful. Look at that. Look at that. That's a little on the rare side. So nice. And the beauty about it, as I said, using these blocks, if it is too rare for you, you can do this. What did I do with my little forceps? Here we go. You can actually put them back on here. Look at that. See that? No, those are fine for me, but somebody else might want them a little more on the cook side. But should have been cooking it from this direction, but wow, look at the fat in there, juices, the flavor. Oh, pretty. Look at that, a quick turn, almost like a little individual serving. Let me just have to sample that. Use my finger. Oh, perfect saltiness, juicy, wonderful. So from here, we can serve our asparagus. Serve it table side. A little wine. Bon appetit. All right, to begin our next session today, utilizing Himalayan salt blocks, we're going to utilize a frozen Himalayan salt block for dessert. And the first thing I'm going to do is pre-prepare some macerated berries, and that means that we're going to soften some berries in some liquid for a while. And what I started with was a little lemon sugar. I grated some lemon zest and some sugar. I let it sit overnight, and I sprinkled some on some pre-chopped blackberries and some strawberries. And now we're going to begin a little maceration by incorporating some of that sugar into this portion of the berries, and hopefully I don't throw this all over the kitchen. And we're going to get those just somewhat softened, and then we're going to pour in some additional fresh berries, and we will stir those up. And you don't want this to sit for more than 30 minutes to an hour max, as this sugar dissolves into this fruit, and it'll be a perfect complement to what we're going to serve on our frozen Himalayan salt block. Now we're going to demonstrate what you can do with a Himalayan salt block that's been frozen. We put this particular block in the freezer last night, been in the freezer overnight, and now we're going to use it to present our dessert. And we've started with some vanilla bean, a scoop of vanilla bean ice cream, a scoop of mint ice cream, and of course our berries now have been macerated for 30-40 minutes here. They're ready to assist the ice cream in looking pretty. We've got some mint, some toasted coconut, some chocolate that we're going to grate, and I've actually even sliced up a little passion fruit, a little yellow passion fruit for decoration. So let's see what we can do as far as pulling this together. Since we got mint here, Dick and I went out yesterday and we picked some fresh mint. We got a couple of different species, black, and what was the other one, Dick? Just peppermint. And I say, well, let's do a little toasted. Well, let's do some macerated. This has been in our lemon butter. Oh, look at that. Gosh, maybe I should have. Ooh. Now that cold block is just going to keep that. Ooh. And that's going to complement that vanilla very nicely. And we got a little bit, you could even go so far as, oops, I'll spill some on the top. Oops, I spilled some more. And we'll do a little, why don't we do a little bit of the macerated strawberries over here. Oh, look at, oh, I spilled one. Doggone it. Look at that. That is awesome. And see how this is keeping nice. See that ice cream's not melting? It's staying on that frozen Himalayan salt block, picking up a little bit of that salt. Let's see, I think we ought to do a little toasted coconut on this one. Why don't we do that for the vanilla? Yeah. And then we'll grate a little chocolate. I think that'll be a nice complement for the strawberries and the mint ice cream. This is a dark chocolate we're using. You can use whatever chocolate you desire. That's coming together really nicely. That ice cream is starting to melt a little bit and it's staying really cold. Let's do what we're doing tonight. Let's cut a little of this just for decoration. If you've never had this, it's delicious. Hard to find. This is the first time I've ever done a yellow one. Normally they're reddish, about strawberry color. Come from, last time I had them was Thailand, so I don't know where these came from, somewhere in Asia. I don't think Dick grew these in his garden. So, I think that looks great. And I think it's almost time to sample one. Let's get a little of that macerated berry juice, a little bit of that vanilla. I may need a little assistance with another spoon. Look at that. That's beautiful. So, to dessert on the Himalayan salt block. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about cleaning, the inevitable, not so fun part, but it's not so difficult. Cleaning of a Himalayan salt block after you use it for cooking. What I do is, as you can see, we previously used this block for the entree, the steak, the asparagus, and the shrimp, and we have some cooking residue on it. So what I like to do is put it in the sink. Again, never use it in a dishwasher. Put it in the sink after it's cooled down. It's very important that you let it cool down first. And I just scrape up some of the residue using any kind of scraper you want. They sell some commercial types of scrapers, but this is what I use. This is how I do it. And these blocks will last, by the way, years. You treat them properly, heat them up properly, and then clean them properly. And notice this particular block, which I've used several times. Look at the color. What character. It has developed a beautiful color. So just scrape that, get the residue off, clean it off. If you want to, you can use a cast iron chain to clean the residue off, again under some running cold water. If you need to use a non-soapy, don't put any soap, no soap, a non-dirt detergent containing scouring pad to clean it off. Then use a cloth rag to clean it off, to dry it off, and let it air out, cool down, store it back in your box, as I mentioned to you, if you want, or a nice place in your shelf, in your pantry, whatever you have to store it. But that's pretty much it. So it's not very difficult. It is a necessary thing that you need to go through to maintain your salt blocks for future use, and enjoy. It's all part of the fun of using Himalayan salt blocks.